You're missing the minutes from August. Does anybody have any updates for August or September meeting minutes? Everybody's okay? Okay, we'll approve them as noted. And we'll look at the highway quarterly report. Scott?
Certainly willing to take any questions that you have. You'll notice that we have completed the high-risk rural road plans for Washington County. We'll be starting to contact local municipalities for that. Same thing with the intersection safety analysis. We got ours completed for Washington County, which went before this committee and the county board. So those are both completed. We will again reach out to local municipalities to see if they want us to do them for them. And the last one, which is the 2050 plans, we're still working through the town of Farmington and city of Hartford, so hoping to have those completed by the end of this calendar year.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none? Oh, sorry. Chairman Schleif?
On one page, there's a create a high-risk rural road plan for the county.
Yes.
And it's got a due date that's already passed, even though it's a draft. Is that just a misprint?
The county one's complete already. I'm looking to see where it says draft on the form.
It's
Yeah,
Blue. Oh, because it's highlighted blue.
Yeah.
It must be something with glitch with the system.
okay.
So
Thanks.
Good catch. Okay, we'll move on to the transit ridership report.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, you'll see the numbers that are on the report, pages and the graph. Of note is that the transit manager, unfortunately, he's at a seminar today, so he's not able to join us. Over the past month, though, after last meeting, we did have a meeting with Interfaith Caregivers. If you're not familiar, they're an agency that also provides rides to elderly disabled individuals. And we thought, well, is our ridership going down? Is their ridership going up? And lo and behold, that turned out to be correct, that in May of this year, they realized that they were having an uptick in services and having a little more problems keeping up, and ours numbers dropped. And so, as you might recall, we did raise the fare slightly on the elderly disabled, 50 cents a ride last year, and obviously a free ride from Interfaith versus a paid ride for our services. And we are, as you know, 24 hours in advance, and a shared ride system versus their ridership. So we do a little bit more of the paratransit and the people that have more disabilities because of wheelchairs and stuff like that. But it was interesting to have that conversation with them and to see what their ridership is in the community as well. And that is one thing that we'll be looking for potential partnership with them in the future to see what that might look like. Again, we'll be talking to, as we talked last month, that we may be talking to other municipalities. We'd like to have that conversation with Interfaith Caregivers as well to see what services they provide and how maybe we'll be able to support each other, since a lot of our clientele is very similar.
Mm-hmm. Is it safe to say that our ridership is kind of flattened out, or do you think it's too early to tell since we just increased the fares?
I feel comfortable saying, if you look at 2024, that the average is 48.88, and every month besides May, we're pretty close to that number. Yeah. So that's fairly flat.
Is that something that you're still going to be reviewing in the future?
And
cost?
We're also looking at the hours of operation. Closing at 10 p.m. We're looking at potentially closing at 9. We had Charlie do an in-depth look at that. That would not need to have a public hearing, but we would like to bring that back most likely next month. We saw to see who that actually is impacting. Is it one person that drives every day because they're going to work? We had one person that was after 8:30, but now they move shifts, so now they're no longer there. So it's nice that we can see unique IDs. We don't know exactly who the person is all the time, but we know the unique identifier, and we can talk to the shared ride taxi service, and with their riders, they know who the person usually is. So we actually do that level of detail, and we're looking at, if we do make a change, who are we actually impacting on that change? And you can see that, after 8 p.m., we have very few rides on that service, but we're paying for the service to be out there and available to the public.
Okay.
And so if it is more for elderly disabled students, that kind of flare, and we're not impacting somebody, that might be a way to shift those hours to more peak times during the day. Maybe not reduce the service, but hopefully improve the service.
Yeah, fair enough. Any other questions?
And when I point to that 3 or less, you can see that on the graph. I don't know if Mary can put my screen up there, but that second page of the ridership report, the graph shows what's out there. So that's about 3 drivers that are out there, actually. It's not the number of people doing it, but it's 3 drivers that are on that road at that time. So you see we're already pretty reduced after 8 p.m.
Right. Sounds good. See no further questions. We'll move to 2024 resolution, county aid bridge and culvert for town of Barton. I'll need a motion in a second, and don't jump all at once, guys. A motion from Supervisor Grath.
No,
You know, second from Supervisor Vespalik. Did you want to touch on this, Scott?
I would. I know the committee has seen these before as well as the board. This one, the uniqueness of this one is that we don't currently have the funds available right now. And I'm sure you're all familiar. We have a 2-year budget cycle going forward. So you already approved the funds for next year as part of your 2-year budget cycle, but we physically don't have the cash, in our account. And so the town of Barton, because of the condition of these culverts, are looking at replacing them this year with the condition that they would be refunded, next year as part of that project. So, and we got $100,000 coming in. We got about $4,000 in our account that's not accounted for. So again, we're using good stewards of the taxpayers' money, getting it down as far as we can. But for next year, they'll be using 65% of basically of our funding for next year right away to be spoken for. So we'll look at this for the following years after that, make sure communities are out there, and we give them every opportunity to let us know what's coming for the next 2 years. But some towns it's a challenge to know what's going to happen until you see a hole in the road.
Yeah, exactly. So there's possibility of a fund transfer maybe for next year?
Typically, no, because this is its own little account. So remember,
Gotcha.
this is a it's not county funds. It's a tax that's put on town residents to help other town residents. It's a segregated fund at the county. So we can't use it for county roads or village or city streets or anything like that. It's segregated just for town culvert and bridge aid.
John? Nope. Supervisor Schleif?
I actually asked about this in our agenda review the other day, and that's a tax that's puts on the township residences. Mm-hmm. And it amounts to like a penny a thousand. So it's less than $1 for most people. But we can't change it for next year. It's too late in the cycle, but we're definitely going to be looking at it for the next year. Maybe get that where the bridge fund is up where it should be again.
Well, with inflation, yeah, we probably haven't been keeping up then, right?
Well, and Scott will share with you that not everybody is inspecting their culverts. So, we have surprises like this come up.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Understood. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, vote aye.
we're not, what are we voting? I guess, I don't see a.
It is a resolution.
Should be one in the packet. Yep, page 13 of your packet should be the resolution.
Yes, that's what I got too. In the full packet. Is it not in the live section?
Is it the first?
Nope, it's up on the screen right now. It should be in your packet, following the report.
Yeah, I pulled up the full packet, so it's on there for 13, but I don't know if you're in the live meeting section. Should be in there, though.
And we typically pay this after the work's done, correct?
We only pay it after the work is completed properly. Correct.
But as he said, this one's getting paid next year.
Correct.
Okay, there it is. I found it. And,
You good, Ben?
yeah.
Okay, all approved, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. And the next item is resolution, 2024 resolution order to convey right-of-way to Wist DOT. I need a motion and a second again.
I'll second.
Supervisor Vespalik, Supervisor Garat, second. Did you want to touch base on this one as well, Scott?
Yes. You'll be interested to know, and I find this interesting. So back in the 1950s, when they were like preparing to put Highway 41 in, which wasn't there before that, the state of Wisconsin wasn't able to obtain right of way, and so they had a lot of the local. Well, they had to have the local counties actually obtain the right of way on behalf of the state of Wisconsin. And so by doing that, there's also a state statute 84.09 that says whenever they want their right of way back, we just got to deed it back to them. It's they did an order for us to convey that right away back to them. The good news is one of those locations near the village of Slinger at 144 and 41, they're doing it because they were most likely contacted by the landowners and putting that land back on the tax roll, just like Washington County is doing, as you heard recently at the county board. And so the very first property is at that intersection 144 and 41, and the state will then turn it back over to those citizens. I'm sure they'll sell it back to those businesses that are there. So that's a real positive thing for Washington County. So they sent us that order, and at the same time, we were working with David J. Frank Landscaping, which is on 41 and Freistadt Road down in the village of Germantown. They're having issues trying to get their sign redone, going through the state and this permitting process. As you can imagine, then the state found out that we don't actually own that right away. Have the county give us the permit. We're like, well, it's in our name, but it's really not ours because 41 and Freistadt Road is either village, and they were going back and forth for another couple of weeks, and we just gave them the permit because they needed to get stuff going before the winter. But to clean that area up so they don't have that confusion in the future, as you can see, their driveway is that little up on the screen. I know it's hard to see, but their driveway's there too. So we just want to make sure it gets back in the right hands. And so we'd like to convey that one also back to the state. So there's no future confusion about who's actually the permitting authority out there. You can imagine a citizen going to the state, say it's the county going, no, it's the state. It's a tough situation for the landowner to be in.
Sure. Any other questions? Seeing none, all approved, vote aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. And the last item, 2024 ordinance amends section 200.04 of the code relating to speed zones on county. It looks like T, but isn't it supposed to be?
Should be S.
S? I need a motion in a second. Supervisor Garath, and motions, and Ms. Pollock, second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You may recall that this is a County Highway S came up as part of the whole County Highway W extension conversation several years back. We have now completed the intersection of Highway S and R. If you look up on the screen, that is the left-hand side of the screen is going to be County Highway R, runs north and south. Highway S runs east and west, and this is State Highway 175 that runs on the angle. And to make safety improvements out there, you can see we, instead of this coming at a skew or a straight line, we curved into the intersection so people can be at more of a 90-degree to intersection, making it safer. At R, we lowered the hill at R so you can see all the way back to 175, cutting back the hill a little bit. Also adding turn lanes and bypass lanes at both intersections. So when you're making a turning movement, someone coming behind you, you can get out of the lane of main traffic, or someone else can go around you if you're in the main lane of traffic making a turn move. We were requested by at least one resident, if not multiple residents, between R and 175 to lower the speed limit down to 35 miles per hour. You'll see in the packet, this is only 700 feet between the two intersections, and you'll hear why that's important later on. And you got stop conditions at both intersections of by R and at 175. And so we applied to the state of Wisconsin. I contacted them about lowering the speed limit because anytime we go from 55, the Washington County Board can go from 55 down to 45 without DOT involvement. If you want to go lower than 45 on a rural highway like this one, you have to get DOT approval. I contacted them via phone to see if we could get that approval, and they turned it down via phone. So I filled out the form work to get an official response from them, and we're waiting on that response. As we know, we hopefully have that response before the county board. There are rules and regulations that the state has for speed limits. For instance, one is a speed zone's got to be at least 1,000 feet length. This is only 700 feet. We don't hit that requirement. There should be greater than 4 driveways in that stretch. There's only 3. You could say the driveway and the farm has 2 because there's a little bit of curbing in between there, but that's still 4. That's still less than 5. So we don't meet the requirements to go down to 35 miles per hour according to their standards, but they are looking at it. Perhaps they'll be magnanimous and provide that. Perhaps not, but the effort is there to provide that speed limit to them. What you'll see on the sheet of paper in front of you, and I'll pull it up here, is one thing that we did was a speed study out there to see, well, what is the traffic actually going at? It's been my contention before we started construction that people will not be able to go 55 miles an hour between that stretch because you have to stop at both locations or make a turning movement to get there. In front of you, you'll see a speed study, and what we do, and when I say a speed study, is we put tubes down on the ground, pneumatic tubes, and cars drive over them, and motorcycles and trucks. And that, by knowing the spacing and the pressure and stuff like that, it can detect how much speed they're going between those 2 sets of tubes. You might have seen them in other areas. We can get traffic volumes with that and what types of vehicle. It's called classification. You'll see, and I'll try to go through the first page with you. You see it's a 24-hour speed test that was taken on 10/15, starting at 8 a.m. in the upper left-hand corner. And so every hour it's recording how many vehicles went through that stretch of roadway. And again, it was put right in the middle of that stretch of roadway between the 2 intersections. So you see at 8 a.m., there was 47 vehicles that went in between 8 and 9. 2 were going 0 to 15 miles an hour. 1 was going 15 to 20, and so on and so forth. You kind of see the progression. Down below at the bottom, you see the totals. There was 1,168 vehicles that went through in that 24-hour stretch. Then you can see how many vehicles were going at what speed down below. And you'll see on that there was no vehicles that were going 45 to 50 or greater during that time. And being an unposted roadway, it's 55 miles an hour is a technically legal speed limit. But you can see that no vehicles were going over that, and only 10 were going between 40 and 45 miles an hour. Below that, you'll get a whole bunch of data, because that's what this computer program loves to split out. So you see the average mile per hour was 29.9. The minimum was 10. My guess is because we did have to put it near some driveways, because of the stretch, that was probably people turning into their driveways. And then the maximum was 43.5 miles per hour. The pace range is important because you can see that most people, 77%, were going between 25 and 35 miles an hour. The percentile speed you'll see again right below that. So 90% of the traveling public was going 35.3 miles an hour. Below that, you'll see the speed exceeds, how many people were exceeding everyone. So there was 11% that were going over 35 miles an hour, and then obviously the zeros above that. We can certainly go through the next page. I don't want to go through all the data, but you can see the same thing, that the average was, again, 30 miles an hour. 90% of the people are going 35.6. Again, there you had 2 vehicles that were going in the 45 to 50 mile an hour range. The next page then is now going eastbound. So the first 2 were two 24-hour stretches going westbound. These are 2 stretches going eastbound. You see in the very first one, though, there may have been a vehicle that was going 78 miles an hour that showed the expense. But obviously they were breaking several laws, because there's no way they would be able to stop and start within that stretch. It could be a glitch in the system with the pneumatic tubes, or perhaps someone's going, but if they're willing to go 78 and a 55, they're probably willing to go 78 and a 35 as well. And so you see the data that you see down below again, about 90% of those people were going 37.4 miles an hour. And again, only 2 that were in that 45 to 50 mile an hour range. And the last page, you'll see very similar data again. Again, I've thrown a lot of numbers at you. I apologize, but it is all in front of you, and we'll make sure we get it to the clerk's office to add to the packet. But again, 90% of the people going 37.8 miles an hour. Why this is important is that even if the committee decides to do nothing and the county board decides to do nothing with regards to the speed limit, we're getting compliance right now with about a 35 mile an hour, because if you drive it, that's about what you can do. And so regardless if you drop the speed limit down to 45 or 35, you can see already you got compliance of people doing, again, 90% of the people roughly doing 35 to 37 miles per hour. And so we're bringing this to you because we were asked by the citizens to look at the speed limit going forward out at that location, and actually potentially even lower than 35 miles an hour. But then we really don't follow the DOT standards, because 25 is an urban setting. If you're familiar with St. Lawrence, the hamlet just south of here, which is semi-urban, it's got church and bars and restaurants and a fire department. That's 35 miles an hour with people crossing the street for those different establishments. And so that's not even 25 miles an hour. So just to kind of give you a feel for what that looks like. I know I did also look at that 700-foot difference. If you didn't get a chance to get out there, that is about the distance between Indiana Avenue and our main driveway here. And that's straight versus a curve, understood, and a little wider. But to give you a sense of feeling how short the distance actually is, so you can see that it's challenging to get up to 50. It's challenging. Most people didn't get to 45 miles an hour, and then nonetheless 55 miles per hour.
I was out there before on the other thing we were working on, but is it actually posted?
No.
So there's no posting on it 55, it's just understood?
Correct. Yes. If, in the state of Wisconsin, if a road is not posted, it is statutorily a 55 mile an hour speed limit. In the rural areas, now cities is 25. So don't think you can start going down 33 because you don't see a speed limit sign. But in the rural county highways system, town roads, it's 55. If it's not posted, it's 55 miles per hour. And that's why our county code has, maybe 20, 25 different speed zones throughout the county where we do actually have it lowered. I don't know the exact count, but we have several locations that are out there that are lowered. Most of them like in Allenton or in the village of Germantown. We did have it in MY in Newburgh, for instance, when we had that. So they're scattered throughout the county, the speed zones.
So would this have ahead of that stretch, would it have a sign that would say reduce speed to 45?
No, because everybody would be coming.
When they get to that stretch, it would be 45?
Correct. We would have to put, yes, what we would have to do is, because they're at a stop condition, you don't have to do a reduced speed ahead because they're stopped already. So we'd have to have 2 45 mile an hour speed limit signs between the two county, between R and 165. But more importantly, then on the other side of the roadway, if you're going west, you'd have to have a 55 miles an hour because people would need to know it changed from 45 to 55. So you're talking about 4 signs that would have to be installed to make it legal in each direction. But again, we're having pretty good compliance with not one sign up right now.
Saying you're only talking 700 feet. I mean, we put signs up for 55 or 45, almost asking for trouble. If you post it.
Would people try to get to 45?
Well, yeah, you're only talking 700 feet of road.
I guess my question is, we're talking about 35 miles per hour, and you're saying 45 mile per hour signs, though.
Well,
right.
We're
requesting
that was
that.
Supervisor Grath that asked me to 45. That's why we went with 45.
I see.
We requested 35 with the DOT, and that's where that's at right now.
But at this
realizing
point, we don't need to put any signs up until we get the 35 approved anyway, right? Or no?
Yeah.
Well, I think what we're doing right now is trying to do our due diligence for the citizens
Sure.
because there was a request for them and trying to do it as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so by doing that, we figured we'd take it to Public Works now, hopefully have an answer by the DOT before the county board met. And if they refuse 35, the board would have the opportunity to move to 45 if they so desired.
Oh, I see.
That's kind of the logic behind the resolution. And
Sure.
I'm sure Attorney Stern can explain it maybe better, but that's kind of the gist of it.
I don't need any more explanation. I mean, if the people there want it that way and it's a small stretch or short stretch, obviously it shows most people are doing that anyway. There's kind of no harm just to post it, right?
Was this
The cost of the
information shared
signs,
with the residents right there?
No, we just got that done. If you see the dates on it, it just came back into my office today to get the data done. So
Just out of curiosity, since the chairman brought it up, do you know what the cost would be for the 4 signs?
each sign's usually about $100 or so, $150.
$400.
So relatively inexpensive. And once they're up, there's really minimal.
Minimal maintenance.
Unless somebody gets hit.
Yeah, people knock them down, right. Any other questions?
Maybe $200 per sign
Gotcha.
with labor and stuff.
Gotcha. If no other questions,
So if we approve this, this goes to the full board then?
Yes.
Is that we're saying let's push this to the full board for conversation?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't have any other
Okay.
questions then.
then all approved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Then motion carries. So that's the last agenda item. So the next meeting will be Thursday, November 21st at 3 o'clock.